What's going on, YouTube? Ferocity here. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm not normally a guy that talks about everyday news here on this channel, but sometimes everyday news collides with Call of Duty, and that's when I feel there is a need for me to talk about it, because I think there's a pretty important message to come from this unfortunate situation. So to catch you guys up to speed, on Thursday morning there was a shooting in Indianapolis that police believe is over a disagreement from a video game, more specifically Call of Duty. And this shooting has resulted in one man being sent to the hospital. I don't have an update on whether or not this man has been discharged from the hospital or not. But nonetheless, this is what Officer John Arvin of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department said about the situation. Officers noticed the Call of Duty video game was on the television, and there were a couple of chairs near the TV. It could be possible the fight broke out over a video game. Now, I want to say this. I might get a little emotional here on this channel, might get a little dramatic, a little hyperbolic, but understand, it's all in good fun. None of this will ever lead to violence, and I know a lot of you are like me. We can get worked up over video games, we can get frustrated by them, we can be disappointed, like they bring out emotions in us, and I think that's a good side of video games. But the majority of us aren't going to be violent as a result. And if you're somebody who's going to get violent after playing a video game, whether it's towards people online or in person, maybe video games aren't really for you. Like, read books instead, but stay away from The Catcher in the Rye, because that might make you kill somebody. Nonetheless, I digress. I know what's going to come from this. I know what people are going to say as a result of this. They're going to hear the name Call of Duty, and they're going to associate it with a shooting, and then come to the conclusion of video games make people violent, instead of violent people do violent things with mediums that bring out emotion. Because that's what video games do. They're a medium that brings out emotion. I mean, that's the whole shtick of this channel, is I get emotional over the state of Call of Duty. But that emotion is never violence. I'll never get violent over a video game. That's ridiculous. And Captain John Arvin agrees with me. It's not worth getting shot, getting hurt, or getting beat up over as something as silly as a video game. So sometimes it's just a good time to leave. And that's my advice to anybody. If you're getting too worked up over video games, just leave. Whether if it's online or with your friends. Sometimes those emotions you're feeling, that anger, that frustration, yeah, it's just a good time to walk away. I mean, I see it all the time in the real world. Like, I see it with people driving. Some people honestly should not be allowed to drive with the amount of anger they have within them. But it's not just driving. I see it in sports. I play a ton of different recreational sports. And one of the sports I see it most commonly in is hockey. Hockey is inherently violent. I mean, if you've ever watched a game, you've probably seen the violence. You can openly just fight people. But some people take their 11 o'clock beer league game a little too seriously and get a little over violent. Now, is it the hockey that makes them violent, or is it the fact they could just be violent people because they have a bunch of anger issues they've never been able to sort out? Who really knows? But I would guess that that person, if they were to play a video game, would also get a little frustrated, angry, and potentially violent. Because unlike what the media likes to tell people, it's not the video games that make people violent the same way the hockey doesn't make people violent. It's the world. It's these people themselves who are violent. And this is what happens. So yes, it's an unfortunate accident or situation that occurred in Indianapolis, but I don't want what comes of it to be that violent video games are bad. Millions of people play violent video games every single day, and nothing occurs. But we have to take one isolated incident and make it a blanket statement across the entire industry. And I know things are going to be correlated once GTA 6 comes out, and we're going to say, oh, all the carjackings are as a result of the new GTA game, when like carjackings happen regardless of that. And there's like actual real data that doesn't support any of that. But again, who likes looking at real data instead of just saying what they feel? And that's really the problem here. And this is why I wanted to make the video, is I don't like this obvious slant towards video games being bad when they are an outlet for so many people, when they're a time waster for so many people. And I think that's a good thing. They're also a social aspect that a lot of people get to have because of video games. And to just blatantly say that video games are bad or violent video games are bad is simply just like not true. I mean, look at the most popular games in the world right now. As much as I harp on Call of Duty and Fortnite, like the most popular games have guns in them. We're not seeing a violent raid of a bunch of 13-year-olds across the world right now, even though they're playing Fortnite and Call of Duty and CSGO every single day. So like this idea that one leads to another is just so incorrect. And I really hate the fact that they had to point out that it was Call of Duty. I hate the fact that it's going to be brought back to video games and we have to have this debate with a bunch of boomers again. Sorry, guys, this isn't Pong. This isn't Sonic. This isn't Mario. Yes, you grew up on those games, but video games have evolved. They've changed. But those same feelings that you were able to have back then, you have today. It's not like they all of a sudden just turned a bunch of people into violent gang members just because you could play as a violent gang member in a GTA game. That's not what happened. You don't see enlistments in the army go way up across the board, across the world because of Call of Duty. No, if anything, I think people are more scared now than ever to serve for their country because they can get all their anger and all their inferiority complexes resolved playing video games. Maybe that's a good thing. But yeah, I really just am concerned about this. And maybe I'm off my rocker here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is the video games that are causing these types of shootings. Maybe it's not angry people. Maybe video games make people angry. But I have a hard time believing that when I exist in the real world and have real world evidence of people who play video games and I see this every day. Like, that's just not the case. So yeah, it's obviously a tragedy. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't want things to be taken away here that like I'm glossing over this, but I don't think that video games caused this shooting. Yes, maybe the disturbance was a result of video games, but who knows? The same disturbance could have happened because they were playing pool or playing foosball. So is it foosball's fault that this person got shot? No, it's because the other person thought that it was okay to shoot somebody because they lost or they had a disagreement or whatever it could be. Like, please continue trying to find a way to blame video games when that's just really a lazy argument. And that's what it comes down to. It's a lazy argument. And yeah, I'm going to defend one of my passions in life for sure. Why wouldn't I? But I can also see the forest through the trees and realize there's a bigger problem here. It's not video games. We just blatantly blame things because our feelings want us to push one way or the other. It's just lazy in my opinion. But luckily I haven't seen a ton of that from the media when I was researching this altercation. But nonetheless, yeah, it happened. It sucks. And not something that I like talking about, but I did want to take the time to kind of put my flag in the ground and say, hey, like, I don't think that violent video games lead to more violence. I think that violent people playing violent video games keeps them violent. Just the same way that if they were to play a sport or a game of any type, it might lead down that road. I'm sure if you play Monopoly enough times with angry people, something bad's going to happen because Monopoly does bring out the worst in a lot of people. But that's a video for another day, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything that we talked about in this video down below in that comment section. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.